I just want to welcome you to the Maui County Government and Nonprofit Career Fair. I am Nico Fisher, the project manager for Maui County Virtual Job Fair website, and I'm so thankful to be here. We have been planning these special events for you, highlighting the many Maui County government and nonprofit jobs that are available, hoping to inspire you to consider working for a cause greater than yourself. Today, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we will have a slew of virtual events, and we'll finish off with the in-person career fair at the University of Hawaii, Maui County, in the Paina building from 3 to 6 on Thursday. So far today, our lineup, So far today, our lineup was Dean Wong, who gave us an incredible look at his path. And boy, it was incredible. We recorded the session, so I'm going to have that on the website if anybody has missed it. So I'll let you know about that. And then today we have Linda Puppolo. She's the executive director of Maui County Workforce Development. She'll be speaking with a panel of incredible guests. So I'm looking forward to that. And then Julie Patel is going to be speaking at 11:45. She is the associate professor, cooperative education and career link director, and she's going to be talking about internships and training opportunities. So we are bringing you credible, informative, and inspirational talks to help you job seekers find a job, employers to hire the best Maui has to offer, and for you all to learn a little bit along the way. So Linda Puppolo is a great person. She's going to be speaking to you today. As I said, she's the director of Maui County Workforce Development, and she's recently been awarded the National Award for Workforce Development Professional of the Year. She has a great team that she works with, and we are so proud of her. She's a powerhouse at work and an advocate for those in need always. She's someone I greatly admire and appreciate, and she will be the moderator of a panel of executives sharing ins and outs of working for Maui County departments and nonprofits. We are going to have a Q&A at the end of the session, so you can add your questions in the chat box if you'd like. And if you need to change your view to have it on speaker view, there's a little button at the top right corner that says view. Click on that and you can decide how you want to view this presentation. But for right now, I'm going to hand it over to Linda so she can take us away. So Linda, go for it.
Good morning, everybody. I think I'll start by, before I introduce my guests, I think what I'll start is by talking about my own career path for a moment. I started as a paper girl. That was my first job. I've probably had 40 different job careers in my life. I, at one point, worked at a sheetrock factory. It was the first woman hired in the state of Hawaii in a sheetrock factory as a laborer. I ended up working on the knife. I cut the sheetrock all night long. And that was quite a job. It was a teamster. I was one of the first women teamsters in the state of California. So I moved to Hawaii, and I always was a bookkeeper. So I had plenty of bookkeeping jobs, and I really fell in love with the nonprofit sector. And I have had lots and lots of experience working in nonprofits, including Kaku, Maui Community Television. And I worked at a school, Kalama Intermediate. I was a PCNC and a substitute teacher there for quite a long time. Some of my the best experiences were volunteer experiences that I had along the way. I've assisted Maui Mediation Services. I was a PTA president, soccer mom. Those experiences really led me into getting the kind of experience that led up to my job at the county. And I always say you should have a bread and butter occupation, which is, for me, bookkeeping. And then you can branch out and do other things too. And the sky's the limit. All you have to do is just take all the training that you can get. And I was always willing to do that. So very, very fortunate to have the career that I have. But the ladies that are here today are really special. The first one is Cheri Nashiwa from the county of Maui. Cheri is the human resource. She's senior management in the county of Maui Department of Personnel Services. She's a human resource specialist. She's one of the people that help people get placed in county jobs. She is the girl, and she's going to give us some information about the county and how to get a county job. The second speaker we're going to have is Cassandra Abdul. Cassandra is not only the executive director of Nahali Maui, but she is also the president of the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association, which gives her, hello? Hello, thank you, Lori, for muting, which gives her a real overview of what nonprofits are looking for in the market. And our third speaker is Betsy Sheller. Betsy is a friend and she's been with, I'll let her tell you how many years she's been with Employers Options, but she's a general manager of Employers Options. And actually, Betsy placed me in my job at Akaku Maui Community Television quite a few years ago. So I have experience with her that she does a great job. She helped me really get my foot in the door on my own career. So I want to thank her for that. So let's start off. I think we have some questions for the group, and we're going to start with Cheri. And the first question is, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your own career path?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My career path, let's see, graduated from Baldwin High School. I won't say what year. Went to college, but at UHMC, formerly MCC, took classes here and there, was working. It took me 9 years to finish. So it was pretty daunting. And even when I plotted out the timeline, knowing that my stress level, I could only do a couple classes a semester. Yeah, it seemed daunting at first, but you get through it. And I just kind of had faith that getting my degree would open doors. It's definitely not a guarantee to a career, but that's just what I believed. And so the end of my schooling, the last semester, or maybe the last couple of semesters, I basically went into panic mode and just, what am I gonna do? You forget that there's a life after college, and you actually have to pick a career. And I started just praying, basically, please something show up. I didn't necessarily have a strong passion for anything. And lo and behold, my last semester as an elective, I took conflict resolution and I found my way to mediation. The instructor was Claudia, who was the executive director at Maui Mediation at the time. I ended up volunteering there, becoming the case manager there. I was there for 8.5 years. Loved it, absolutely loved the nonprofit world. Little bit of a struggle to raise money, that's always the battle, but you just meet the best people at nonprofits. Everyone is there because they have a passion. And so I got laid off because, like a lot of nonprofits, it's grant money and the funding isn't always secure. So I got laid off. And what popped into my head as a field of work was HR. When it comes to training mediators and facilitators, we had a lot of HR people, and I enjoyed their company, and they just thrived in our trainings, just natural at it. And I thought, I get along with these people so well, I should think about getting into HR. So that's how I ended up at the county. Very unexpected. I didn't necessarily think HR was going to be my field, but I love it. Oh, I think you're muted, Linda.
And she rose to senior management in the county, not just a county employee, but she rose to senior management. Is there something that really drove you to rise to the position you're in now?
Pretty much just determination. No, you know what? Every job is stressful. Every job has its challenges. What normally gets me through is having great coworkers and great bosses. Yeah, and helping people. I think when you find your purpose, as general as helping people is as a as a goal, it's how do you want to help people? And in mediation, we help people find conflict resolution. We help them find peace. In HR, I end up talking to a lot of people, whether it's, just kind of career advice, calming their fears when it comes to applying or starting a new job. It's, you just feel like you're helping people. So yeah, that's why I'm here.
Well, we're blessed to have you in the county for sure, Cheri. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Linda.
Okay, so our second speaker is Cassandra Abdul. And Cassandra, I've introduced already as we're going to have her speak for both her own nonprofit and for all the nonprofits today. So Cassandra, take it away. The question is, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your own career path?
I'd be happy to, and thank you for inviting me to participate in this. I hope that it's helpful for many job seekers out there. I went a little bit differently. After I started college, and I dropped out after a couple years, I got married, I had 2 kids, and then I went back to college. So I understand having to take a couple of classes every semester. And at the time I was fortunate, I was able to do distance learning with West Oahu College. So I got a bachelor's in business, and then I went back to work for my family. We have a family real estate company. So I've been involved in affordable housing my entire career as one track. We did the Waiahu Heights subdivision initially, which was 450 house lots. We also did a lot of other projects here. And over time, I decided I was ready to go back and get my master's. And the choice was an executive MBA, where you travel back and forth from Maui to Oahu. And I thought about that for a while, but it's difficult because I had children. And I also figured that if I did that, I'd be able to afford my own airplane after a couple of years. So instead, I packed everybody up and moved back to Oahu, got my master's, my MBA, and then I went to work for Hawaiian Trust Company for 12 and a half years. Again, in the real estate department. So real estate has been a continuing thing in my life. For a variety of reasons, including caregiving. I left the trust company and I eventually moved back to Maui rather. So I've been here off and on my entire life. My mom's family comes from Happy Valley. Maui no Ka'oi. I also have always been involved with nonprofits. I've sat on a number of board and commissions. I started with the status of women for the state of Hawaii, but for Maui County. I've been on the Fish and Game Commission. I spent several terms on the Ethics Commission. I was with the Boy Scouts for a really long time, actually Cub Scouts, even starting a Cub Scout pack in Kahului. And just been involved in one nonprofit or another, many of them even business related. So kind of 2 tracks, right? Nonprofit on the one hand and for-profit on the other. So after I came back here, I got a call from a friend and she said, well, what are you doing? Well, I was semi-retired, and with computers and cell phones, I could work from anywhere. So I was also playing and traveling and having a great time. And she said, are you interested in working with a nonprofit and affordable housing? And I said, well, I don't know. Tell me a little bit more. She says, well, they're looking for someone. I said, well, I'd probably be okay on the board. She said, well, they need an executive director. So I thought, well, okay, I will talk to them. And long story short, here I am. And I've been here for a little over 6 years now. The tracks merge. I mean, we're all like that, right? We have different aspects of our personality and our interests. And by coming here to Nahaleo, Maui, I've been able to put the 2 pieces together. This is something I have always done, something I love. It's something that I can put a lot of energy into and time into, because I don't feel like I'm working most of the time. And the biggest thing with a nonprofit is that you can make a difference. You can help people. And maybe that's, there's discussions on whether or not birth order has any influence on how you relate to people in the world. And earlier, Dean talked about being an only child. Well, I grew up as the oldest. So I was always responsible for those below me and helping them and making sure that they were safe and okay and everything else. And that probably makes me a little bossy also, being used to doing that. But I think those are all traits that have helped me. So I was with Nahaleo Maui for several years, and I immediately joined the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association, which is a really amazing and special organization. It's the only one that we have here, really in the state, where so many nonprofits get together and collaborate and support each other. It's a safe place where executive directors can come and talk about challenges that they face, ask for training. We can help with that also. It is just really great. You learn about all of the other nonprofits and what they do. And when we have our constituents come to us, especially during the time of the pandemic, the 2 years where so many people were furloughed, we can make referrals. We know where to send them. We hear about either food that's available or support for paying your electric bill or your rent or your mortgage, and we can disseminate that out to our existing homeowners, the people that are trying to become homeowners, and those that are on our qualified buying list. So it really does help to be involved in this type of an overarching type of organization. And I will say that nonprofit leaders, nonprofit people that work there and volunteer are just absolutely amazing, caring, giving, loving people. And it's really been a pleasure to be able to work in this venue and to be part of the Maui nonprofits. So that's kind of in a nutshell how I got here.
That was a beautiful story. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's go on to Betsy Sheller, who is the General Manager of Employers Options. Betsy, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your own career path?
Sure. It's funny you should bring up birth order, Cassandra. I'm the 9th of 13 children. So sometimes I think if you have a large family too, you have to learn to be very self-sufficient and taking care of yourself. And I did so at an early age. I started babysitting our neighborhood kids when I was 12, and now I think that's against the law of some sort. But back then I was very ambitious. I wanted to make money to buy myself a bicycle. And I've always been very goal driven. And when I was ready to go to college, I was very focused on being a teacher. I've always enjoyed working with people, training, being engaged, and I just loved all my classes. I had to work really hard to graduate in under 4 years just because I had a limited sources of money. So again, very goal driven. I had really junk jobs during college, 7-Eleven, junk in my opinion, because I worked late, I did all these things, and they paid me a pittance for being there and that type of thing. But goal driven, had to get this done, had to get my career. When I graduated from college, I was so excited. I graduated in education, and there were 500 other people who graduated in the elementary education as well as I did. 500. There was one job. I'm from Minnesota. There was one teaching job in the whole state. So when you're going to plan your career, be sure and think about, if you're going to college, do you have a purpose in that? And I saw other people who didn't go to college who did as well, if not better than me. So I just want to also say college isn't your only path. It isn't our only path to success. So having to get a job, I ended up going into training for adults, I guess they figured my degree in education was good enough, and they had an opening in a government type of situation. I then ended up working in workforce development and working with doing training for dislocated workers, for youth, for parents who were not paying child support, for people on disability, for people on assistance. So I ended up working in whatever group of people I could, because I just enjoyed moving around, and maybe my supervisors enjoyed moving me around so they didn't have to deal with me. But they moved me then into economic development because I had a passion of working with people and organizing. And so I was able to help a lot of small businesses working in economic development and in working with groups of people to place people in some of those with those employers that we worked with. And then I got into human resources because, I was already there in their back door, and ended up working with a hospital chain, working in human resources. And that was a very enjoyable, I learned a lot. It was, Cheri, like you said, the human resource people can be wonderful, and then they can also burn you out quicker than you can imagine. Because if you work for a big company, sometimes you can get, just swallowed up in how much there is to do. Even small companies, when I worked for some nonprofits here on Maui, the smaller companies didn't often have the resources that were, I think, almost necessary to do a good job. So eventually I came over here to work with our former owner, Jennifer Britton, and she hired me to help with some compliance issues in HR. And I thought, well, I don't really know a lot about staffing or, but I suppose I can put people on jobs. So it was a very quick learning. We accelerated in our growth in the first 2 years. We were cleaning up some issues we had, our employers options had. So we were cleaning up and getting ourselves all in compliance. And then after that, I was made the operations manager, and we've been growing ever since. It's been tremendous. I have to say, working for a for-profit can also be very rewarding. It's very rewarding to work places where you are aligned with your skills. So I believe I'm aligned with my skills because I'm working with people, which I love. I'm still teaching. I have a team of folks that I get to teach. I'm teaching people about their jobs and how to go about getting the best interview and how to redo your resume so it speaks volumes about you. And so it's been really a joy and a pleasure to work using all of my skills and working at Employers Options.
That was wonderful. And I know that you do a good job because I got a job from you.
Thank you.
Well, now we're going to get into a little bit more meat, and we're going to start with Cassandra. And we're going to talk about if someone applies for a position with your department, agency, organization, what are the steps from beginning to end to get hired? How does somebody break into nonprofits, what they should be preparing for, that type of thing?
Sure. That's an interesting question. And I think it actually starts before anybody even looks at the job description, and that's writing a good job description that helps someone understand what you're actually looking for. And when you are looking at, descriptions of different jobs, I would suggest that you not just apply just because it's a job or because of the salary that's posted. I think you should really do some introspection and decide if that's what you really want to do, if you think that this is a path that will work for you and that you will enjoy and be happy at work. Because nobody wants to be hired in a job and be miserable, right? You won't stay and it just spreads. So I'd say that that's the first step. Is this really what you would like to do? Then you need to have a resume, which is basically sharing your skill set in a way that the employer can use to understand you and whether or not you will fit in the job. And it's not always formal jobs. I think that volunteering is a large part, a skill set that you can bring to your resume writing and share with the company that you're interested in, especially if you're applying for a nonprofit, right? That's just right up our alley. We're looking for people like that. And like we talked about earlier, different speakers, a lot of times people become volunteers, and from volunteers, they move up and they may become staff. And they get a good sense of what's going on in that organization also. So, oh, sorry. So then, once you have your resume together, you'll want to complete the application. Be thoughtful. One of the things that they teach you, in self-help types of information is to write your resume or write your cover letter so that it reflects what they're asking for in their job description, and reflect back much of what they're looking for. Put it into your resume, but be genuine and be authentic. Don't make things up, because sooner or later you get caught up in it, right? Sooner or later, everybody's going to figure it out. So be real. You don't have to be able to do everything that's on the job description, because much of that can be trained and learned. What you do need to have is enthusiasm, caring, being able to be a team player, because I am right now executive director here, or president at the Maui Nonprofit Directors. But I don't do everything myself. I mean, physically, mentally, I couldn't do it even if I wanted to. Everybody that is part of the organization adds to that. And basically, it's kind of like standing on the shoulder of giants. You have all of these people below you that support you, that are really the reason that you succeed as a leader. So again, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to have every skill, but take a look at they usually have a section that says, prioritizes what skills we need or what skills are nice to have. So again, you don't have to be 100% match. And then schedule an interview and be prepared for that. Depending on how your experience is and how you feel, a lot of people tell you to prepare for it, and maybe you want to rehearse it a little bit, but you don't want to sound like you have it totally rehearsed, right? And some of us just wing it and just talk off the top of our heads. But basically, you'll have the interview. You will also submit a writing sample for many of the types of jobs that we're looking at, where you need to be able to communicate in writing as well as verbally. And then the employer is going to check your references. So you have to be patient. You do need to, it will take some time. But one of the things that I have always tried to do is, after I'm through with my interview, is to write a note. Send a note thanking them for the time that they've given me to allow me to, apply for the job. And there are many times where I didn't get the job I was applying for. Believe me, I have a banker box full of rejected applications. Be persistent. It's a huge, great trait to have. You cannot give up. And learn from if you can get feedback, that's terrific. But even in working, mistakes are great because they help us learn. They're only failures if we don't learn from our mistakes. So don't be afraid. Go ahead and share what you think. And if it works, it doesn't. Either way, you'll do a great job and you'll make an impression. And sometimes when I was working at the trust company, I wasn't the first choice. I applied for the job and they hired somebody else. And they didn't last very long. And then I was invited to apply again. And I'm not even sure that I was the first choice on that one. So don't give up. Be persistent. Okay. And then when you hear back from them, ask, what you can do to help them make that decision. Or sometimes if you waited a while, not too long, maybe a week or two, you might just call to just say, is there any more information that I can share with you that would help you with your decision? And I think that's kind of the process. And then, of course, once the decision is made to hire someone, then you have the old onboarding situation when you bring somebody on board as a new employee with the training and the orientation and everything that goes along with that. So I think I've answered your question.
Did a great job. Thank you. I definitely learned something from that myself. Thank you. So Betsy, can we ask you the same question? If someone applies for a position with your organization, what are the steps from beginning to end on getting hired? Unmute. You're following Linda.
There you go.
There
Thank
you
you.
go.
Thanks. It's really easy. We have a couple ways. Linda, you can walk in. We are located in our office, a newer office for us, behind the Jack in the Box and the Taco Bell in Kahului, and the Kahului office suites. You can walk in between 8 and 4 and say, help, and we will. You can fill out an application up through one of our Indeed ads where you could respond, fill out a little short application, and you can even book an appointment with us so that you can, save some time to talk about the job that you're interested in. Or you can call us and we can send a link with our forms over to you. You could talk to us about what job are you interested in that you see, or maybe there's all the jobs. All of our jobs are listed on our website. We try to keep that up to date on Fridays. So Fridays we have new jobs posted. And so it is very simple. Come in, virtual, however you want to do it, call or respond to an ad. The other thing that we do is just need for putting people on jobs is IDs. People kind of forget, or they maybe work with a company that maybe didn't pay as much attention to the factor that people need IDs to start work. So we always need IDs. It can be depending on your status as a citizen or a non-citizen, you'll need different IDs, but we can always answer that question, the simple call or somebody walking in. And it's very easy. We also can help people figure out how to get replacement social security cards and things like that. So once you walk in or sign up with us virtually, we have your application, we process the application, and then we sort of say, okay, where would this person be a great fit? Where would Linda be a good fit for employers' options? She might talk about that secondary job she liked, doing bookkeeping. Maybe we'd find Linda a job doing some bookkeeping work, and she would be excited to talk about it, especially if we were paying her, $1,000 an hour or something. She'd be very excited about that. And then we would simply, it's a very easy, very easy transition to going out and sending resumes out to the employers. One thing people often think of with a staffing agency is they think it's temporary work only, but that is not true. 99% of our jobs are contract to hire, which means the employer wants to try things out as well as the employee can try things out, and then they get hired by the employer after a certain set of time. The great thing about that does give people the opportunity to learn. Maybe their career restructuring, maybe they're going through, gee, I want to try something different, or maybe I'm injured on my last job and I can't do that kind of work anymore. So maybe I need to see what this would be like. And that's one of the beauties too of doing a contract to hire. You can kind of try it out. And once you do that, once the employer hires you, then you can be hired and be their own employee and not employer's options employee. The benefits of being an employer's options employee is, though, we do have medical benefits, 401k, and other things like that for our people who are on our jobs for longer periods of time. You can, again, depends on what you're looking for. If you want to do very entry level work all the way to executive level work, we will work with our applicants. Does that explain it pretty well?
I think so. I think one of the misperceptions is that somebody would have to pay for your services. Generally, is that not true, that a job seeker doesn't generally pay for any services?
That's correct, Linda. They do not pay for any of our services. And we also have training programs for our applicants if they're interested for moving maybe to a cashier position, to a clerical position. We had great success, Cheri, working with a young lady who was out at the landfill as a cashier. And then she was hired as a temp contract through the council offices, and now has been hired as a county employee because she took, like you were saying, every training she could, took the time. And these trainings were not super challenging. They're on her phone, so she could do them whenever she could. She's a single parent of 2, and she managed to squeeze in time to do this work on her phone at home when she had the time. And that again speaks to what you were saying. You need grit and determination to say, hey, I'm going to just do this. I'm not going to let anything stand in my way.
That's really true. That's how I was able to move to the jobs I did. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, Cheri, you're doing double duty today, and I want to thank you for helping out. Since Sergeant Medeiros could not be here, we're going to tag team on how you become a county employee and how you become a police officer for the county. So I'll let you go first.
Righty. And the beginning stages of becoming a police officer is pretty much the same application process that I'm going to explain. Back in 2016, we moved to all online applications. We no longer accept paper. It has really streamlined our process. As everyone knows, it takes a long time to get hired by the county or probably any government entity. It still takes a while, but it's helped to go through now that we have NeoGov. So my suggestion is to go to the general county website. And we used to have a button that said job opportunities, but since COVID, it replaced, all the buttons have changed with, housing help and COVID regulations and all that. So the easiest way to me is in the search bar, put jobs, and the link will pop up that will take you to governmentjobs.com. The most time consuming part would be to create your account and profile, because that's where it's basically like an application. You put in all your education and work history. You upload documents like your college diploma, driver's license, what have you, whatever requirements we ask you. But the easy part is once you create your profile, once you find a position that looks interesting to you, you just click apply. I think they ask you a bunch of confirmation questions. Do you want to change this? Do you want to change that? But once you create your profile, it makes applying with us a lot easier, faster. So I was asking my coworkers who often answer the phones, they've asked me to tell people to make sure you keep track of your login and password, because we can only help you with so much. Otherwise, you have to call government jobs, basically NeoGov, because it's still IT, right? It's their software, so you might have to call them. So keep track of your login and password. Many of our positions require an online written exam. And because of COVID, we went to an online format. It is pretty cumbersome. We totally get, we've gotten a lot of comments, but there's not a whole lot we can do about it. There's only so much software out there that's available. It's the one we chose. It does get the job done. My suggestion would be to come in and do the test at our office on our laptops. So that is an option. Unfortunately, there is no study guide for most of our exams. It's very general knowledge stuff, math, not public relations, of kind of human relations, interacting, communication, some English, basic English. And of course, if it's mechanical positions, they might ask you some mechanical questions. One thing that I think is important for people to know is we don't send a whole lot of notices out. And I understand that that can be create anxiety in people. You don't get an email to say, we got your application. But for the most part, trust that we got the application and go back into your account and check. I'm sure it will say something. And it'll also say when you move stages. So a lot of times it's application received, minimum qualifications. That's when we're screening your application. And then there's usually like online exam, I think is the name of the stage, which means you've been moved to the online exam, but you only get about 3 notices from us. One is whether your application, whether you pass through to you met the MQs, when you met the minimum qualifications. That's when you'll get notified whether you are being scheduled for the online exam. The second email is regarding the online exam. And then the third email would be to let you know if you passed or failed the online exam. So please, by all means, feel free to email us, call us. More than happy to answer questions. We know it can be a confusing process. So our staff will try to answer your questions as best as possible. Once that is done, once you pass the written exam, your name gets put on what we call the eligibility list. So when a department is hiring, we send, once they pass through our, go through our hoops, we send the names to the hiring department. So it's out of our hands and it's now in the department's hands to call you or contact you to schedule that interview. So our hands are off after that process. And of course, they should let you know by mail, email, whether you got the position or not. But it can take time. It took me 8 months to get my position. Yeah. A lot of regulations when it comes to government work. There's a lot of laws, policies, procedures, admin rules that we have to follow. So yeah, there's a reason behind our madness a lot of times. So the police is the same, really. I think their online exam is just a little bit different. It's a different company, but it's the same. You're in front of your computer taking the test. The only difference is that with police, you can, if you don't pass, you can reapply pretty much immediately. And I don't want people to be ashamed for not passing the test or give up, or it's not like we send to the department, hey, this person failed 10 times. They don't know. They just keep trying. Just keep trying. Our exams are hard. We try to make it, balanced. And we are very aware that people are not the same, and some people just are not good at taking exams. I have a couple of coworkers that kind of went through more of a promotional route rather than taking exams. They knew they're weak test takers and they're great employees. It's nothing bad on them. We don't view them any differently. Everybody has different skills, and exams create a lot of anxiety, but it's the law that we put some type of exam in there in our process.
Hey, Cheri, to help out a little bit, I'm going to show some information. Let me see here. Where are we? That's not it. The questions. Forgive me. Hang on 2 secs. There we go. There we go. Nope, that's not it. That's it. Questions that applying for a job, instructions for that, I should say. So let me get this up here. So these are, looks like all the steps that you need to do to get into a position with the county or a police department. As you had said, it's very similar. Did you want to look at any of these or talk about it?
And if you guys don't mind, I can go right into the police department route.
Please.
So yes, Sergeant Madaris typed this up. So the beginning stages are the same. You pass the written exam and the names get sent down to the MTD. And that's when they start, let's see, bullet, if pass, where you say applicant is placed on eligibility list. This is incorrect. If fail, you can retake exam in 6 months. You can retake the exam immediately. Police is really shorthanded. And so they are more cumbersome. Of course, there's a whole bunch of stuff you got to go through to be a police officer. There's a physical agility test. PH stands for, is it personal history? And I actually got phone calls for this. My neighbor was applying to be a police officer and they called me. Do you know so-and-so? What is he like as a neighbor? Yeah, they asked me a ton of questions. It actually makes you feel very safe that they're vetting the applicants so well. Let's see, the agility test. I have heard that the personal history questionnaire, it's pretty fat packet, but hey, it's very noble work. Let's see, it looks like you go through an interview with their upper management. I hear the psychological questionnaire can be 1,200 questions. That's a lot of questions. And then there's the polygraph. So the psychological questionnaire and the polygraph is, I hear where, I don't know what the word is. I don't know if tricky is the right word, but I don't know what they're looking for. You know, it's a really stressful job.
I've always heard that when you go in to do a psychological exam, that it's really important that you be true to yourself because it'll come out if you're not. That's what I've heard. I've heard you be true to the way you believe, what you believe, and your belief system, and it'll come out better than if you try to rethink and think about the tricks that might be implied in there. That you really, you know, you might have a different idea than what their psychological exam is, and it may be different, but in the end, you are who you are, and you're going to get hired for who you are. Absolutely. So I think it's really, really important that when you take, especially the psychological exam, that you're true to yourself.
I agree. I mean, they're looking for integrity. They don't expect everybody to be saints. You know, we were all high schoolers at one time. Yeah.
And
young adults.
They also said they were willing to work with people that have had difficulties in the past, that they have mentorship.
Nice. Yes, I know several of my friends are married to police officers. Tough job, but very rewarding. Yeah, just what a noble profession that is. And so this part, I didn't necessarily know. There's approximately 10 to 20 recruits in each class, and it lasts 5.5 months. And once they're done with recruit school, they ride with a senior officer for 3 months.
It's a lot of steps, but it's a very, very important job. And that's very important that those steps are. But like I said, I want to stress that the police department told me that they have great mentorship programs to help people through every single step, especially the agility tests.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
that one would be tough.
Okay, so, and is there, so after all of the testing and the calling and the, you know, in the end, it may take 4 to 8 months to get hired by the county.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And then the other thing is if you're doing a medical exam for the police department, that medical exam is out of pocket. That's something they wanted people to know, so they weren't surprised by that. But for your future, that's all part of it, right? You know, you have to be able to invest. You're investing in yourself, right?
Absolutely. I did have a couple of tips that I just wanted to mention. We ask people to read their emails carefully, read directions carefully, especially when it comes to the online exam. We give instructions. For instance, you can't use scratch paper because it's online, you're at home. We're worried that you're taking notes and whatever. You're writing down the questions and passing it off to someone. So, and we've had people argue with us, oh, they were just doing the math. But the rules are the rules. I think it's written down 3 times. You can use a calculator, but you cannot use scratch paper. So please read the directions carefully. Please remember that you're being recorded as you're taking the test. We also put notices on that please dress appropriately. Check your spam box. That's another big one. People are missing important emails from us, like the instructions for the online exam. It ends up in their spam box. It dawns on them, oh no, I didn't get the link for the online exam, and it's too late, it's passed, we can't undo that. So please check your spam box and just attach verifying documents. We'll probably call you if we need something, but it makes our process a lot faster if you attach verifying documents. For instance, if you have a college diploma and you were married, so it's your maiden name, we would need your marriage certificate or some type of name change form to verify that you're the same person. So yeah, that's my little tips for applying with us.
It's great, great information. Okay, we're going to go to the next question, and we're going to start with number, let's see, our Betsy. Let's start with Betsy on the next question. Okay, what is your best advice for job seekers, including training, education, soft skills? What are some of the best practices to prepare for Thursday's career fair?
Right. Make sure that your resume is up to date. Number one, you want to give yourself all the credit that you deserve on your resume. So make sure you have bullet points, proven things you've done. Maybe if you've had a percentages of growth in your company that you've helped, or the number of people you've helped or assisted in a social service position, something similar. It really works to have numbers, percents, and not just a lot of blanks. Make sure all of the things that we can easily overlook when we're editing our own documents. For instance, make sure that what is supposed to be capitalized is capitalized. The dates are correct. If you aren't in a job, don't say you're presently there. Make sure all of that is done, and it can be a little tedious, but your resume is your first talking point about you, and it's almost like a business card. So if your business card has typos in your name and your address and everything, it doesn't look good. So represent yourself as best you can and take the time to do that. Number one. Same with your application. If you're filling out applications at job fairs, sometimes you're in a hurry. So write down everything before you get to the job fair. What were the dates I worked? What were the positions? And who's my contact or references for those positions? Because sometimes, again, you're writing quickly, but if you can copy it off of something, it'll help you. Be ready to shake hands and smile. I don't know. Do people shake hands anymore? I don't know.
You can
fist bump, elbow, do this. I don't know, whatever works nowadays. But it might be awkward. So look people in the eye and just say, hey, do you shake hands? I'm sure they'll have plenty of hand sanitizers there so that you'll be able to use that at the career fair. Be ready, look ready. If your job is to be a construction person, that's fine if you come in jeans and boots, but you still should put a collared shirt, just a polo, maybe. But if your job is to be hoping to be an executive assistant, then you need to look the part. You can't come in your slippers and your shorts just because you're not working right now. So look the part, make sure everything that you have control over. You don't have a control over whether people hire you or not, but you do have control about how you present. So you can make sure everything that you present, resume, application, your appearance, all of those things are job ready. And you don't have to have an expensive wardrobe just to look, presentable, clean fingernails, things like that. Unless you're a mechanic, then it doesn't really matter. I think that being prepared to tell a little bit about backgrounds that maybe have gaps in your work history for a variety of reasons. Be prepared, and be prepared to be honest. Don't tell, some fib if it's not true. I was taking a break from work for whatever reason, and then keep it short, and sweet, and don't over explain yourself in an interview, particularly ones that are at job fairs, because they're trying to get as many people through as quickly as possible. And I know when we do job fairs, we do like a pre-screening. We're not looking for everything. So make sure that you hit the highlights. The big thing too is enthusiasm. It's hard to be out of work. I get that. I've been there. And it is tough, and it's tough to boister up your energy. So take a shot of espresso or whatever you need to do to get your energy up, to make sure that you're forward facing, you're looking eye contact, that everything you have that you're taking with is ready to go. And people will notice that. They will notice that in a job fair, and they'll notice that if they do a little short interview at the job fair.
Thank you so much, Betsy. Great stuff. Cheri, there's going to be, what, 11 departments, 12 departments at the career fair? And on those 12 departments, what is your best advice on how they should present themselves when they come in?
Well, little bit different. I agree with everything Betsy said, although because our process is so structured and restricted, I think, well, what we instructed our departments to do is talk story, inform the public, inform the applicants what their department is doing, how do they serve the community, what kind of projects are they working on. So in a similar fashion, I would expect the applicants to, the attendees to the job fair to be curious about what's happening at the county, how would their skills fit in. Just ask a lot of questions. I agree that neatness helps. It goes towards judgment. we start to question people when they show up a certain way at interviews. I know it doesn't mean they're not going to be a good employee, but at the same time, you start questioning, what was their reasoning?
First impressions.
Yeah, it matters. Integrity and when you're genuine, it really comes through. It really does. Even if you're nervous, we don't care about nervous. In fact, nervous to me is good. It means you care. It means you really want the job. What will come through is your positive attitude, what you believe you can bring to that workplace. So just generally speaking, just to add on, because I agree with everything Betsy said, details on your resume or your application are important. We often scrutinize applications, and if the details are not there, we may or may not call you. It's if we have 80 applications for an entry level, we're not going to call, half the people. The information is there or it's not. So I'd be as detailed as possible, but yeah, just be ready to talk story, at least for the day of the job fair. Be curious, ask lots of questions. As far as what was in my mind was kind of interview setting, and what most supervisors are looking for, at least the supervisors I've talked to and just throughout my time at the county, are they a team player? Are they gonna fit in? Because a lot of times people are trainable. If you have that humility, it's kind of balancing humility and confidence. Yeah, you're brave enough to try, and you're humble enough to, you might make mistakes, but you'll jump back up and you'll keep trying. So that's my advice.
That's great advice. Cassandra, I think somebody in this group told me your interview begins in the parking lot. I can't remember who that was. It might have been you, Betsy. Yeah. But Cassandra, what is your best advice for your organization at the job fair? What are you looking for, including training, education, soft skills? What really are you looking for?
Well, it's hard to go after the last two speakers. I mean, they pretty much checked off all of those boxes for us. I guess I'm looking on the soft skill side. And again, I talked a little bit about it earlier, and we all have, to be authentic, to be genuine, smile when you talk. It'll make you feel better about yourself, and it projects a positive face to whoever you're working with. Let them know that that you care, that you're a team player. If you are, if you're not, you know, look for your skills, your the positive aspects that will help you in the job. But it really is important to be a team player. We all have to support each other. When someone doesn't do their job, it makes the next person's job that much more difficult. If you're working on deadlines and you don't meet your deadline, then that means the other person waiting for your information is now caught in a difficult place. So just be, you know, timely, be, like you said, presentable. We're looking at, you know, you hear more about emotional intelligence now. It's kind of a buzzword, but you're basically looking for people that are compassionate, that care about others, and that are able to read others and understand what's going on. Be a good listener. If you ask a question, let the person you're talking to answer you. And don't just be thinking about what you're going to ask next, right? Because good communication is so invaluable in employment. If you don't understand, ask for clarification. If you don't ask, you're going to end up going off in the wrong direction. So you want to be open, honest, sincere, all those good things. Yeah, because it's a short little window where you can hand someone your resume, but then we get a little bit of time to get to know you as a person. And again, is that fit there? So I think that covers everything without repeating what everyone else has already said.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to deviate from the fourth question and give a chance to all the people here to ask questions first. And we'll go into the fourth question if we have enough time, but I don't want anybody not to have a chance to ask a question they might have. So does anybody here in the group want to ask these lovely ladies a question? Okay, we have Joan asking, do your agencies or departments accept volunteers if a job seeker, let's see. Where I lost it. Do your agency or departments accept volunteers if a job seeker wants to see if your work site or job is what is expected? The state used to have a formal volunteer internship that private and public agencies could connect with the volunteer, but that program ended. It was a good way the employer could see if they wanted to hire the job seeker and help the job seeker see if they wanted to work there. Anybody want to take it? Internships, formal internships. Take a look at the job seeker.
I think for us, we need to pay all of our employees. So they would have to be paid. They can come in and look for maybe entry-level work if it's something different from what they've done, and we can work with the employer and see if they'd like to try the person on. But we as an agency, an employment agency, need to pay all of the people that work with us.
Okay. How about Cheri?
That sounded like a great program. Unfortunately, we don't have much of that going on. I think there's a little bit, but it's not through our department. For instance, at one time, the prosecuting attorney was bringing on college interns. So people that were in already law school or working towards their law degree, maybe summer time coming, I want to say they were unpaid. But that was directly through them. I don't know of any volunteer. We've been asked this a lot, actually. And unfortunately, we just haven't put together a program because, it sounds like it would be a great program to institute.
So not at this time, but possibly, something you'd like to do, right?
It would be great if we had time to set that up.
Yeah. Cassandra?
I know the question was directed to government jobs, but volunteers are a huge, huge part of the nonprofit world. And it's a great way to get involved. And I think I mentioned earlier that your volunteering can be something that you put on your resume to demonstrate some of the skills that you have. And almost every nonprofit out there welcomes volunteers. We've scaled back a little during COVID, but there's always opportunities out there. You can learn about what that organization does, and you can also learn skill sets that you can apply for either nonprofit or for-profit jobs. So I would encourage anyone that is interested in volunteering. One of the places you can go, and we don't have all of the nonprofits on Maui as our members, but if you go to the Maui Nonprofit Director's website, you will see the listing of all of our members, and you can click on the name of the member and it'll take you to their website where you can see what's going on there and perhaps volunteer opportunities too.
So the Maui Nonprofit Directors, you can check out, it's about 60, isn't the membership about 60?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's 60 nonprofits that you can look at, and actually most of them have formal volunteer parts of their programs. So you can look at that and as a future. And if you go to the Maui American Job Center, if you're a senior, there's a CSEP program that can get you part-time work in a nonprofit. And there's all different kinds of programs at the Maui American Job Center that connect to the nonprofit community as well. So we want to encourage you to also at the job fair to check out all our providers that are going to be there that have wraparound services and training programs and things like that as well. Okay, so what have we got here in the box? It says, will you please share how a future employer feels about and considers gap in employment due to a job loss due to COVID situation? Would you advise someone to mention this gap on their resume? Thank you so much, Katie. Anybody want to fill that one? Job gaps on the resume due to COVID. Yeah.
I think that's a pretty, it's happening to a lot of people. So job gaps are different than they used to be. In our case, I am, as a nonprofit, I'm not as concerned about job gaps. Quite often we have moms that have been at home with their kids for years, and now that they're ready to re-enter the workforce while their kids are older, going to school, and quite often they will come into nonprofits. Again, they've done a lot of things while they were caring for their children. They could be volunteering with the Hula Halau or with the Cub Scouts or whatever it is. Those are all skill sets that they can share. So I would not be as concerned about gaps as I'd say we were maybe 10 or 15 years ago.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. And Cheri or Betsy?
I don't think we're too concerned about gap, COVID or not. It's a different world, like Cassandra said. When I was laid off from the nonprofit for mediation services, I learned different recipes. I worked at my girlfriend's shop. If you can answer what you did with your time in that gap, and it showed that you were productive, even if it's just personal improvement. You learned yoga.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Maybe you took some classes, took a break and took some classes. That's a really good point. Betsy, you have any?
I agree with Cheri and Cassandra, and I think that the only thing is, besides explaining what you did during the gap, is I think most of us understand that people didn't have a lot of choices with their children. If they have children at home and whatnot, somebody had to be home with those children during school time and whatnot. So I think most employers are very understanding. If that were the case, and if you have a situation like that, I think it's important to let the employer know that you have a backup, or you have, if you do say I was at home with my children, you've introduced the topic of children to that employer. And so to be assuring to that employer that I have care for my children in case, they're sick or I need to be at work. And if you can secure it.
Great. All great. Any other questions from the group? Well, not seeing any, I'm going to go ahead and do a lightning round. Last question, Cheri, you're first. Is there anything that you'd like to share that we didn't ask you?
I think one of the discussions you and I had before, Linda, was just kind of what skills maybe people should consider working on if they are looking for a job. At the top of my list, naturally, since mediation is my background, is communication. Cassandra and Betsy made comments about that: honesty, integrity, just knowing how to use your words in a gentle and kind, respectful manner. Big deal on the job. And this is my weakness, IT. Our job has become so IT heavy. If possible, take an IT class, even if it's or maybe especially if it's your weakness. But this world, and it's not going to stop. I went to a conference and they said, get used to it.
Yeah.
It's just going to keep changing and keep coming at you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Cassandra, any thoughts about what I didn't ask you that you might want to relay?
We cover so many aspects of employment. Basically would be rehashing everything we already said. Just, I guess, be persistent. Don't give up. You will find something. Dean talked earlier about when one door closes, another one will open. And at the time we can't see it, but just persevere and eventually you'll find it. And I hope that what they find is something that they can do and enjoy and, contribute to our community.
Very nice. And Betsy, lightning round, last one.
I would love to say that my friends at the American Job Center are wonderful partners, wonderful for job seekers. They have so many things that they can offer support. And when I talked about the steps to get your resume ready, to have somebody look it over, to someone to talk with about looking for work, these folks, they really do the job, and they're very helpful, and anybody can go and see if they're eligible for any number of their many programs. And Nico, I think you might have their information somewhere to share with people if people don't know how to access the American Job Center. But wonderful programs, wonderful people, love partnering with them. Just, they're great.
Thank you, Betsy. We really like the plug there. We love Maui American Job Center. We think our counselors will be on site at the career fair to talk to you if you need advice. And my last thing, I'm going to tell you what I'd like to share is that I went to the National Association of Workforce Development Boards annual convention last year. I did it virtually, and their best advice for a job seeker is Excel and Word. And if you don't know those skills and you're trying to break into jobs, it makes it really prohibitive because it affects almost every single job at this point. So, and training is available at the American Job Center for job seekers on Excel and Word. So I just wanted to throw that one in as a plug.
Yeah,
I think we did it. It's 11:30, and I can't thank you ladies enough for being here. You are just awesome. I'm so appreciative of your time. Thank you so much. I know how busy you all are.
Aloha.
Thank you for having us.
Well, I'm going